Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody has their coffee ready and we're ready to get into this. So, welcome for anybody who's new. We are going to go through just a few housekeeping tips and reminders and we'll get right to it. If you guys have any questions today, you're going to want to type them in the chat or the Q&A window at any time. I'll try to address these as I see them come in, but we will have time at the end. For everything else, reach out to me at sales@tristaterestores.com. We are also recording today's presentation. Links to view the video and the PDF of today's presentation will be shared with you guys tomorrow morning through your Zoom email. For everything else, visit our archives at YouTube at Tri-State Restores. We have all of our previous recordings there in our YouTube channel. After the coffee break, love to hear what you guys think and what you'd want to hear about next time. Please complete the post-event survey and share what topics you'd like us to cover in our next one. It's going to be next month, April 29th, always the last Wednesday of the month. Well, good morning, guys. And if you like this presentation, I sincerely hope you do. We would love for you to leave a review for us on Google, sharing about the presentation and what value you got out of it. Again, this is subject to Google's review and approval process, has nothing to do with Tri-State, but if we do see that Google review come through, we would love to give you a gift. And stay to the end, one lucky attendee is going to take home a $50 Amazon gift card, and 10 lucky attendees are going to win a $5 Starbucks card. Stay to the end and find out how. So, who we are a locally operated, family-owned, established firm here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. We specialize in mitigation, remediation, removal, cleanup, and restoration efforts for both large and small water, fire, mold, biohazard, lead, and odor cause damages. Our company's mission is turning disaster into peace of mind because we're committed to easing the burden of handling your property disaster by providing you with the best customer experience and services possible. Again, this is just our suite of services and how Tri-State Restorations can help you guys. We are an IICRC certified firm, EPA lead safe firm, IAQA smart mold firm. We're 5-star rated across all the sites that count. All of our employees are infectious disease control certified and water restoration technician certified. And we have 2 licensed asbestos inspectors on staff. We also belong to all of these wonderful organizations down here. And I will shout out, we are members of 2 chapters of CAI and the Property Management Association. And speaking of the Property Management Association, my team just got back. Last week, we were at the PM Expo at the PG County Sports and Learning Complex, hanging out with over 700 of our area property management friends, talking about what we do best and having fun playing soccer. So there's just a few photos from the event to share with you guys. Now let's get into it, everybody. Oh yeah, Kelly, it was so good to see you. Follow your nose when strange smells signal something wrong. Of course.
This? My nose detects something new that's delicious, so I must follow my nose to the flavors of fruits, wherever they grow. I can't believe it's a cherry berry tree. What a discovery.
Now only in Kellogg's Fruit Loop cereal, cherry berry swirls in blue and red, a colorful part of this complete breakfast.
Yes, my nose acquired by a real life.
So I had to throw that in there. Follow your nose, right? Today's session is going to be absolutely stinky. So here's a quick poll for everybody. Let's get us warmed up. Make sure we've got our coffee. Have you ever smelled something and instantly knew that something was wrong even before you saw it? Let me know. Just threw up a couple of answers here. Yes, it turned into a major problem. Yes, but it was minor. Yes, but I ignored it. Or no, not yet. Right? Our noses are one of our best senses because we're able to have that key indicator of, stranger danger or something is about to happen before our eyes and our ears recognize that something is happening, right? Yes, electrical is a big one. So, how your nose detects danger before you see it. How we actually smell things. When you smell an odor, you're actually breathing in tiny molecules. These molecules stimulate specialized nerve cells called olfactory sensory neurons. There are a few million of these cells deep inside your nose. Hey, John, no worries, you're here. Step one, the odor enters your nose. Those tiny airborne molecules enter when you breathe them in. Step two, your receptors detect it. These specialized cells in your nose identify the chemical signature of the smell you're smelling. Step three, the signal goes to your brain. Information is sent instantly to your brain for processing. Smell is fast, and it's even faster than conscious thought.
It's the first sense you use when you're born. 1 out of every 50 of your genes is dedicated to it. It must be important, right? Okay, take a deep breath through your nose. It's your sense of smell, and it's breathtakingly powerful. As an adult, you can distinguish about 10,000 different smells. Here's how your nose does it. Smell starts when you sniff molecules from the air into your nostrils. 95% of your nasal cavity is used just to filter that air before it hits your lungs. But at the very back of your nose is a region called the olfactory epithelium, a little patch of skin that's key to everything you smell. The olfactory epithelium has a layer of olfactory receptor cells, special neurons that sense smells, like the taste buds of your nose. When odor molecules hit the back of your nose, they get stuck in a layer of mucus covering the olfactory epithelium. As they dissolve, they bind to the olfactory receptor cells, which fire and send signals through the olfactory tract up to your brain. As a side note, you can tell a lot about how good an animal's sense of smell is by the size of its olfactory epithelium. A dog's olfactory epithelium is 20 times bigger than your puny human one. But there's still a lot we don't know about this little patch of cells, too. For example, our olfactory epithelium is pigmented, and scientists don't really know why. But how do you actually tell the difference between smells? It turns out that your brain has 40 million different olfactory receptor neurons. So odor A might trigger neurons 3, 427, and 988, and odor B might trigger neurons 8, 76, and 2,496,678. All of these different combinations let you detect a staggeringly broad array of smells. Plus, your olfactory neurons are always fresh and ready for action. They're the only neuron in the body that gets replaced regularly, every 4 to 8 weeks. Once those neurons are triggered, the signal travels through a bundle called the olfactory tract to destinations all over your brain, making stops in the amygdala, the thalamus, and the neocortex. This is different from how sight and sound are processed. Each of those signals goes first to a relay center in the middle of the cerebral hemisphere, and then out to other regions of the brain. But smell, because it evolved before most of your other senses, takes a direct route to these different regions of the brain, where it can trigger your fight or flight response, help you recall memories, or make your mouth water. But even though we've all got the same physiological setup, 2 nostrils and millions of olfactory neurons, not everybody smells the same things. One of the most famous examples of this is the ability to smell so-called asparagus pea. For about a quarter of the population, urinating after eating asparagus means smelling a distinct odor. The other 75% of us don't notice. And this isn't the only case of smells differing from nose to nose. For some people, the chemical androstenone smells like vanilla. To others, it smells like sweaty urine, which is unfortunate because androstenone is commonly found in tasty things like pork. So with the sweaty urine smellers in mind, pork producers will castrate male pigs to stop them from making androstenone. The inability to smell a scent is called anosmia, and there are about 100 known examples. People with alicin anosmia can't smell garlic. Those with eugenol anosmia can't smell cloves. And some people can't smell anything at all. This kind of full anosmia can have several causes. Some people are born without a sense of smell. Others lose it after an accident or during an illness. If the olfactory epithelium gets swollen or infected, it can hamper your sense of smell, something you might have experienced when you were sick. And not being able to smell anything can mess with your other senses too. Many people who can't smell at all also can't really taste the same way the rest of us do. It turns out that how something tastes is closely related to how it smells. As you chew your food, air is pushed up your nasal passage, carrying with it the smell of your food. Those scents hit your olfactory epithelium and tell your brain a lot about what you're eating. Without the ability to smell, you lose the ability to taste anything more complicated than the 5 tastes your taste buds can detect: sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and savory. So the next time you smell exhaust fumes, salty sea air, or roast chicken, you'll know exactly how you've done it. And perhaps be a little more thankful that you can.
Awesome. So who here has tasted a smell? I always think that's an interesting one, right? Did you know your sense of smell is the only sense that bypasses the brain's main processing center and goes straight to the part of your brain responsible for memory and emotion? Why smell feels so immediate? It's because smell bypasses normal processing, just like the video was just explaining to us. It connects directly to your memory, which is your hippocampus, and your emotion, which is your amygdala. That's why a smell can trigger a reaction instantly. You feel something is off before you know why, and smells can also trigger memories or nostalgia. Memories linked to smells are often stronger and more vivid, and studies have shown that they also tend to be memories of your early life before you were 10 years old. I think everybody remembers that first time they smelled ice cream, right? An ice cream shop with the waffle cones. Such a nostalgic feeling, right? Donuts, yes, that's an absolutely good one. Your brain is designed to alert you quickly. Smell equals early warning system. You don't need to analyze it first. That gut reaction, it's real and useful. So our pro tip here is if something smells off, it probably is. And your brain is trying to tell you before the damage becomes visible. Your nose detects what your eyes can't see. They can detect hidden moisture, electrical overheating, air quality issues, plumbing failures, and more. Here's a great example from a job site that our team tackled. This is a gorgeous kitchen, but the homeowner knew something was wrong. She could smell it in the air. There was a damp, musty odor. She started feeling dizzy, getting headaches. She couldn't explain it. It turned out there was a plumbing line behind her sink here in the wall, and there was substantial microbial growth starting to form and infest in her kitchen. This is part of the aftermath here, midway through the project, where you can see even with this staining that is present, there was substantial microbial growth where you just couldn't see it, but her nose knew it was there. Ever walk into a building and something just smells off? Because your nose is an early warning system, many major losses can start with just a small ignored signal of smell. Early detection equals lower cost and less disruption. We want to protect our property's residents and occupants and the property value. Many issues are invisible but not undetectable. All right, we got another poll for you guys. Which of these smells do you think is the most dangerous? Is it a musty smell, burning plastic, a dirty sock HVAC smell, which we'll get into in a minute, or a sewer odor? Sewer. A lot of people say sewer, right? Because of the health hazards, right? Burning plastic is a big one. It's a sign that something else is happening. Perhaps you have an electrical overload. Let's prevent those fires. All of these smells, in fact, are red flags. If you smell any of these, there's a sign that something worse is about to happen. And musty could be mold, correct? So strange smells equal warning signs. I threw this one in here, and hopefully there's some murder mystery fans that will understand the humor. Bitter almonds is often the smell of HCN or hydrogen cyanide, and it overpowers the other less pungent smells present, which readers of murder mystery novels will recall as the telltale signs of a cyanide poisoning. Almond mixed with a chemical smell, though, can also mean hydrogen cyanide, used in biocides like for insect killing and rodents. It's also used in making other chemicals, synthetic fibers, plastics, and dyes, and it's also used as a chemical warfare agent. So an almond smell could be indicative of something more than a classic murder mystery. A sweet almond smell can also be a sign of an insect infestation. Let's get into insects. These are some termite friends over here, not really friends. Musty, oily, sweet smells in the kitchen, basement areas could indicate cockroach or other insect activity. Sharp ammonia-like scents suggest mice or rats, especially in attics and crawl spaces. Sweet damp smells, similar to mold, could pinpoint bed bugs, often near beds or furniture. And a sour smell could mean a dead pest or a decayed nest. Our pro tip here is to look for signs like droppings, damage, or tracks combined with the odors to help confirm infestations. Addressing moisture issues can also reduce pest attraction and related smells. So again, musty damp odor, that is indicative of mold microbial growth. Musty, earthy, old basement smell. It means there's probably hidden moisture intrusion or mold and microbial growth has already started forming. There could be poor ventilation issues leading to those as, causes. What it signals, there's water damage behind walls or floors, potential mold remediation needed, indoor air quality concerns. And for taking action, we want to inspect immediately. Don't mask it. Moisture mapping and professional drying and mitigation if necessary. A burning smell or an electrical smell. Some people say this smells like ozone. This burning plastic, fishy or overheated wiring smell, it means that you probably have electrical overheating or failing wiring or outlets, or you have an overloaded circuit. This image here is a great demonstration of a homeowner that smelled a smell and took action immediately and prevented a horrible house fire from happening. So she followed her nose and she went with her gut instinct and started searching through her house, unplugging everything, and realized this one outlet was overloaded and was about to spark. So, for taking action, definitely shut off power if necessary. Do not ignore the smell. Unplug anything you just plugged in and check your electrical panel and call a professional electrician out to do a full inspection. That dirty sock smell. Some people say it smells sour, stale, like a locker room or dirty socks. What it means is that there's bacteria or mold in your HVAC system. This is the air you're breathing. You could have a condensate line issue. You could have dirty coils. You could just need to change your filters. And what it signals is air quality problems, system inefficiency, or potential complaints, right? We want to make sure we're keeping everybody's livable breathing air healthy so that it is safe to occupy. Taking action, you could require HVAC service or cleaning, replace your filters. We always recommend HEPA grade filters and inspect your drainage for your condensate line and ensure that you don't have any water intrusion. We had electrical burning smell in my home about 10 years ago. It was around 5 a.m. We got everyone out of the home and called the fire department. They came in and found that our HVAC wires fried. Oh my gosh, Scott, you are so lucky that you were able to smell that. And everybody was safe. I'm sure it was crazy. And that smell, it's indistinguishable. You know when you smell some kind of an electrical burn. I'm so happy you guys were all safe and made it out of there. So let's listen.
Every time that air conditioner turns on, it's blowing a stinky smell in your home. And it smells just like it sounds. It smells like dirty socks, dirty gym. It's a real thing. It's called dirty sock syndrome. What it is microbial develop in your evaporator coil. It develops from humidity issues, which is typically caused mostly by airflow.
Right. Rotten egg smell. It could be sulfury, sewage, rotten eggs. This normally means you have an issue with your plumbing. You could have a dry pee trap. You could have a sewer gas leak. You could have broken or blocked lines. This here is just an example of a water intrusion from a backup from the main line. While this doesn't look like chunky poop, it is sewage water. This is Cat 3. There are harmful contaminants in it. I'm sure as heck would not be drinking this. It's not clean water. It's very, very harmful. And it doesn't belong in your property. So this, like I said, it signals a plumbing failure. It is a health hazard. You could have gas exposure, potential backup in the system. For taking action, you're going to want to inspect your plumbing system, get a contractor out there, somebody local, trusted, and make sure that you're clearing your line and that everything is in tip-top shape so that it doesn't continue to happen. Now, if you guys do happen to see this ever in your property and you start to see some kind of a backup, it generally starts in the very bottom of your building. So if you have a basement, it's going to start in the basement somewhere down there. This is a warning sign. Do not continue flushing your toilets. Do not continue using your plumbing in your home because it is going to cause this backup to get larger. And then you're going to end up having to call a company like us to come out and clean. This luckily was kept into the shower pan here, but lots of times we see the overflow, we see it continue to migrate into the living areas, and we want to make sure we're stopping it in its tracks before it gets worse. What is a dry drain? So I mentioned in the last slide, dry P-trap. So this right here, this is a P-trap. And this occurs when the sink and drains have not been used for a prolonged period of time, and the trap dries out, allowing the odors to migrate up into the room. The way to solve this is to run water in all sinks periodically, pour water down floor drains from time to time. Once a month is recommended, and this will keep the traps wet, full, and sealed, preventing the odors from being able to escape. Sweet chemical smells. So a sweet chloroform-like or chemical smell, it could mean a possible refrigerant leak, a cleaning chemical residue, or VOCs, volatile organic compounds. We do a deep dive into VOCs in a previous coffee break, so I'm not gonna derail you guys right now going off on that, but definitely check that out. They're in everything that we use. So what this signals, there could be an HVAC malfunction, it's an air quality hazard, and there's possible exposure risks. So for taking action, have your HVAC serviced and cleaned professionally, inspect everything, open your windows immediately, open your windows and doors to help ventilate your area, your living space.
Identify it. Special forces can smell danger, literally. They're trained to recognize chemical explosives by scent, even through water, and sealed containers. Each explosive has a signature odor, a mix of metal, acid, and earth. The brain maps patterns that machines can miss. On missions where electronics fail, or radar is jammed, your nose becomes the sensor that saves lives. Some call it urban legend. Others whisper it never stopped. Still taught in classified programs, preparation isn't just gear, it's instinct. Subscribe to Tactically Prepped.
And I threw that in there just because it is along the lines of chemical smells. I think that that is so super neat. You can train your nose just like, the bomb sniffing dogs do. And you can actually smell different types of chemicals for chemical warfare and weaponry. So kudos to our armed forces for just being spectacular human beings. Decay, something dead smell. We hear this a lot, and it is normally, unfortunately, some kind of pest or rodent trapped in a crawl space. Again, as Callie Ramsey said earlier, that dead mouse smell, it's unmistakable. You know exactly what it is if you've ever smelled it before. It could be a biohazard, it could be animal, or unfortunately, human decomposition. What it signals, the strong odor indicates that something is seriously wrong. For taking action here, you want to complete a property inspection. Look for signs of animal droppings or a biohazard present. Be sure to check your crawl space and any exposed wall or ceiling cavities. And then we threw in a couple health hazard smells here. These aren't specifically indicative of property damage or warnings of property damage, but they are harmful to your health. So an example of a rotten egg smell outside of what we previously talked about is a rotten egg gas smell. It could be a gas leak. In that instance, immediately call the fire department, have somebody from Washington Gas come out, inspect your lines and ensure that you're safe. Exhaust fumes could lead to a carbon monoxide risk. We see this a lot in the winter months. People are using generators, all kinds of temporary power sources, and they don't realize that that affects their air quality. Strong chemical odors could lead to unsafe exposure, and decomposition odor, again, is a biohazard situation. Sometimes the property is fine, but the people are not safe. So let's make sure we're keeping everyone safe. Did you know certain weather conditions, like temperature inversion, can trap odors near the ground, making problems seem worse even though they've already been there all along? Temperature inversion is a really interesting natural phenomenon. Normally, smells rise and disappear. But during a temperature inversion, it's like putting a lid on a pot. Everything gets trapped underneath that lid. What usually happens is that warm air near the ground will rise. The cooler air that sits above it pushes it down. As warm air rises, it disperses the odors and the pollutants, and smells get diluted and carried away. What changes with temperature inversion is that a layer of warm air sits on top of the cold air near the ground and pushes it down, creating a lid or cap effect. What that means for smells: the cooler air with odors, fumes, and pollutants can't rise. Everything gets trapped near the surface. Smells become stronger, more noticeable, longer lasting, and instead of dispersing, they build up. Inversion-like effects can happen in properties with poor ventilation, which equals trapped smells indoors, HVAC imbalance, odors circulating instead of leaving, and in closed spaces, basements and hallways, it can build up the odor. So here's just a nice chart, and normally it goes up, disperses into the air, and the odors go away. But in a temperature inversion, that cold air is pushing the warm back down, and it creates kind of a smog effect, creating this lid that traps all of that smell down there with the warm air. If you've ever had a sudden phantom smell, I've got some news for you. If you've ever smelled something that isn't there, you're smelling something and you're doing a check and you're like, hey, do you also smell that? What is that smell? This could signal neurological issues, environmental exposure, or pregnancy. So let's hear a little bit more about that.
Asking what's that smell can be both comical and disconcerting. But if you find yourself asking that question several times a day, it could be a warning sign of something more serious. Olfactory hallucinations happen most often with women between the ages of 15 and 30. 76% of pregnant women experience phantom smells. The symptoms start slowly and then increase, and in some cases require surgery.
Joining us with what you need to know is emergency room RN Alice Benjamin. Good to see you.
Hi, Helen.
Good morning.
So this can be serious, actually. First of all, let's talk about what is the medical term.
Right. So the medical term for this is phantosmia. So it's an olfactory hallucination, as you said, sometimes referred to as phantom smells. We're smelling something that's not there. But mind you, these often aren't pleasant smells. These are things that smell like burnt toast, burning rubber, molding smells. So things that are very obnoxious. So, and unfortunately, this is something that's very difficult to diagnose. It's very uncommon. However, 1 to 2% of Americans do report some type of smell disorder, and this condition attributes to 10 to 20% of that.
And so someone will be in a group and say, do you smell that? And everyone's looking at the person like, no, what are you talking about? Is that kind of how?
Right, absolutely. So you're smelling things that aren't there. Now, the confusing thing is like, well, why is this happening? Why am I smelling these things? And it's really a biochemical condition. There's something that's going on. It's something that could be central to or localized to your nose, your nasal passageway. There could be polyps or problems in the passageway. Maybe you smoke or you have frequent sinus infections and that's causing problems there. Or it could be something that's more central to the brain. And so it could be an underlying symptom of more dangerous condition.
So are you supposed to go to a doctor if you're smelling strange smells? On an often, like pretty often, or how does that work?
Right. So this condition, it's not life-threatening. But it is something that can significantly impact your quality of life. And unfortunately, it takes a person anywhere from 1 to 7 physicians to get a true final diagnosis. So it's difficult to diagnose. So recommendations that you go straight to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, because they're going to be most familiar with what to do in this situation and how to diagnose it.
And so once you are diagnosed and someone says, yeah, that's what you have, what are the treatments?
Well, there are several treatments. So depending on what is causing the underlying problem. So what they'll want to do is they're going to want to interview you to see, did you have an head injury? Do you smoke? Get some, idea of what could be causing this. They're going to want to look into your nasal passageway to see if there's polyps or there's tumors, because maybe it's something that requires surgery and you can remove it. If we can't find that, it might move to a head CT, head MRI, and then there might be a tumor there, or you might have been and that would require removal. Or it could be that maybe you have epilepsy or you've had some head trauma that is causing the problems with your nose and those senses interpreting the smell to your brain.
So the idea is that the brain is saying, hey, that smells like this, but it's really not that.
Absolutely. There's like a crossage of passages there. So what we're smelling is being interpreted incorrectly by the brain. And so we're identifying it as an incorrect smell. Now, this is something, again, that can impact your life. So what we smell influences what we eat. So if you can't smell properly, you might have a decreased appetite and you might lose weight, or your food might no longer be flavorful. So you're going to tack on seasoning. Yes, because your smell and your taste buds are very close. They very closely work together. So sometimes if you think you have a smelling disorder, it actually will impact what you're eating.
And remind us that the medical term is
Xanthosmia.
All right, that's antosmia, guys. Yes, and I was just about to mention that. So chemotherapy can cause antosmia as well. So anybody, if you or your loved ones are currently going through that, there is a scientific explanation for the symptoms that you are receiving. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch here. Maintenance, fixes versus emergency. And let me go on ahead and answer a couple of these questions here. So what is one smell people tend to ignore the most that later turns into a serious issue? And I would say commonly we hear that musty odor smell and we hear the ozone smell. So burning wires, that sort of thing. Those two, I mean, one, you could end up with a full-on property fire, complete destruction of the property and your investment. The other, mold can grow very rapidly. It is a fungi. It's like a mushroom. It has a root system and it spreads anywhere it can find a food source. And unfortunately, your home is the perfect food source, especially if it has warmer, damp conditions that allow the molds to thrive. So I would say those are probably the two most costly, although there are a lot of other ones in there that cost not financially, but you would pay with your life. So depending on which direction you want to go with that one, that's pretty much the answer for that. All right. So when is it minor and when is it urgent? Likely maintenance situations, dirty HVAC smell, dry drain smell, mild mustiness, and an early stage. These are all things when their red flags can be handled fairly easily, fairly quickly without a lot of financial obligation. When you get to the emergency status, you're thinking burning smells, strong sewage smells, gas or chemical odors, and rapidly worsening odor. That's when you need to call in your big guns and seriously have some people come out, do an inspection, and help rectify the situation, because these are signals that something very bad is either happening already or about to. Why spring inspections matter. Most spring losses originate from water intrusion, condensation overflows, drain backups, foundation seepage, irrigation failures, and storm damage. Nearly all of the above are detectable before they become restoration projects. Proactive prevention tips. Let's make sure we're doing our regular inspections seasonally. We want to check our HVAC, electrical, and crawl spaces. And report smells immediately. I always say if you see something, say something. Well, today I'm saying if you smell something, say something. And don't forget to follow your nose. There we go. And in closing, if you suspect you have a property hazard or require our assistance with water, fire, smoke, lead, or biohazard damages, give us a call. We're available 24/7 to assist with your disaster. And yes, I put this in here just in case anybody was curious. This was an exploding toilet. This was a bathroom where it got pressurized to the point where the toilet exploded. This was a very interesting job site, but this almost looks like a black and white photo, and it is not. That is just soot. All right, anybody that I didn't address questions, feel free to either type them in the Q&A window or in the chat. Happy to help address those here as we get into prizes. How can you tell the difference between mold smell and normal damp smell? Well, here's the tricky thing with that. A normal damp smell, there are microbes that come with that smell. The reason why you're able to smell the moisture is because those microbes are already present in the environment. They haven't created an infestation yet, and they haven't really done much property damage. But anytime you smell a damp smell, that is a red flag. Yeah, it is scary. Exploding toilets, right? Can you imagine? Luckily, nobody was there. It was after hours. This was a commercial facility. But it had to do with somebody leaving the fan on in the bathroom, and that bathroom just became so pressurized that the toilet exploded. So really, really fun story, right? And here's how to connect with us. Again, definitely check out our YouTube channel for all of the archives for our coffee breaks. And without further ado, let's get into prizes, y'all. We have 194 people on today. Let me see my random number generator. I'm going to look for number 34 here. All right, bear with me while I do some counts. Is there a sensor to detect this type of thing like an early detection device? So for water damage, Kevin, yes, there are water sensors that you can place. Most people commonly put them next to their hot water heater drain pan or their HVAC drain pan, those kinds of things, so that you can detect an early overflow situation. So before that water decides to migrate throughout your entire property, you're able to address it quickly. So that is definitely something you can take a look out for. As far as preventing exploding toilets, not sure much could have been done there other than the building super, going in and making sure that fan was turned off before close of business for that day. All right, like I said, let me get to number 34. Give me just a moment while I count. All right, sorry guys. Zoom doesn't make it easy because they give us these tiny, tiny little windows. And let's see here. One. All right, Miss Emily Kankar, and I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't butcher your name, but I'm not very good with names. Miss Emily Kankar, you are a lucky number 34. Congratulations, hon. You won a $50 gift card. I will be reaching out to you after the coffee break to let you know how you're going to get that sent over to you, but it will be a digital gift card. Oh, Kevin, I'm glad. Thank you. And that's the whole goal. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to learn something and take that back home with them so that we can keep everybody safe. And now here's the time for everybody to finally start using their chat again. Give me one thing you learned today. First 10 responses get a $5 Starbucks gift card. Want to make sure we're keeping you all caffeinated and happy and ready to rock your week. Yep, smell something, say something. Yes, thank you, Russell. Yeah, exploding toilets. What the smell of almonds means. Awesome. Anosmia, yep. The ability not to smell. Recognizing early signs of mold through odor detection. Follow your nose. Amazing, guys. I think we have a lot that we can take back to use in our daily lives Let's make sure we're keeping everybody safe, looking out for those red flags, and helping to prevent things before they become larger issues. Everybody today is also going to get a link to download our Hidden Dangers of Springtime. This is going to help answer a lot of your mold questions. As you guys are performing your annual spring inspections, getting those HVACs ready to go. Don't forget to check on your hose bibs. A lot of people always neglect those. If they weren't properly winterized before you turn it on, definitely have a plumber come out, inspect, and make sure you don't accidentally flood out your basement. We will see you all April 29th. Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure. Stay safe. Enjoy this warmer weather. We'll see you next month. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.